Hi, and welcome to InFocus. This is Jabbar Al-Ubaidi. In the studio today, I have a friend and a colleague, but also a person who loves to travel to different countries. And so Dr. Jabbar Solomon is Associate Professor with the Social Work Department or School of Social Work at Bridgewater State University. And it happens that he just came back from Japan. He spent almost 2 weeks there. And prior to that, of course, he worked with international students. And also he traveled to, I believe, two different African countries. So it is my pleasure to bring you to our audience.
Thank you.
And welcome back. When did you arrive from Japan?
On December 23rd.
So just
very late.
It's like last year.
Yes, last year.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
exactly.
welcome to. This is the first episode.
Yes.
That in 24 that we are honored to have you.
Thank you.
Myself and our crew, a great crew. So tell me a little bit. Share with our audience your background as a social work professors and also activist and also promoter and engagers. Yeah.
Well, I think when I joined the academy to focus on teaching and research and scholarships, I have noticed very quickly that the world was changing very fast. From the time I was a PhD student to the time I became a professor, I've noticed a lot of changes. And in the field of social work or social sciences, which primarily we're training students at the undergraduate and graduate level to work with people, either as individuals or as families or as communities or in neighborhood. And the work entails anything from mental well-being, emotional well-being, social well-being, community, family well-beings. And you really are touching on, we're preparing students to go and touch the lives of people in all aspects. And more I've noticed that the global community was coming to the United States and becoming part of the new multicultural communities that exist in the United States. So these multicultural communities and the changing landscape of the multicultural communities that were growing around the state, around the country, I start to realize that it is absolutely important that the way we prepare our students as future professionals need to use that multicultural lens, if you will, because they are going to work with people and touch the lives of people in the community. And those communities have become multicultural communities. And as a result, I focus my work around understanding global engagement, understanding multiculturalism, and integrating it into the way I teach and the way I prepare these future professionals so that they become the best they could be and serve people in the best way they know how.
Are you trained? Were you trained?
No.
Or just because you pursue the higher education or even undergraduate and then you become interested in multiculturalism and also social work?
I was not trained in because when I went to undergraduate, master's, and PhD program in the 2000s, the curriculum did not integrate a lot of multicultural perspective. It
Good
had
point.
it had some aspects of diversity perspectives, and we were exposed to diversity, and diversity was just limited to the issues around race and race relations,
Gender.
gender, and even a little bit of, even gender rights, gender issues was just starting to kind of come into the fold, if you will.
So now when you were undergraduate student, because the point I
Yeah.
want to just see how
Yeah.
this evolved
Yeah.
over the years,
Yeah.
and now you travel a lot and,
Yeah.
and you work with this global community.
Yeah.
So when you were undergraduate students, even graduate students,
Yeah.
did you have any chance to travel? Like as part of study abroad or study tour in different countries?
No, I didn't. I didn't have the opportunity to do all these travels, but I was always interested, and I was always engaging with, international communities and local community people, and my own curiosity about different cultures, different kinds of people, sort of, always has driven my interest in understanding the global world.
Okay.
I was always a student who had a curiosity, even as a graduate student, about the world cultures. To me, it sort of like, even to understand your own culture and your own perspectives, it's important to understand how the other cultures that are part of the world also move around and connect with your own culture, if you will.
Okay, so your curiosity
Yes.
and also the high interest,
Yes.
it seems to me that drove you to go to Tokyo,
Yes.
to Japan. So tell us about that.
Yes. I mean, in 2022, I went to Kenya on a grant award from the U.S. State Department under the International Research and Exchange Program. And that was an eye-opening experience. And in March of 2023,
Yes.
you and I went to South Africa. And the more I did those tours, I became very curious about, okay, what are the other perspectives from the other cultures? So this year, when I took a sabbatical, I had an interest. I realized that I needed to have a deeper understanding of Asian Pacific Islander culture and cultural perspectives. And that's why I decided that one of the ways that I could understand this is to really go to the country as a student who is learning and understanding the culture, connecting directly with people. So I partnered with a professor at Kansai University, and Kansai University is located in Osaka, which is in northern Japan. It's about almost 3.5, 4 hours from Tokyo. So she's a sociology by training, and sociology and social work in the university are connected under one department.
Yeah, okay.
So she was the host. I was able to meet with her, go to Kansai University. I taught a lecture in one of her undergraduate classes. I met with students. I met with the faculty of the College of Humanities and Social Sciences, and to really kind of exchange ideas and learn about their curricula and what do they value in education.
So before we indulge into that,
Yeah.
So tell me your experience when you landed in Tokyo. Well, what was what kind of experience you have, and what was the impression before landing, and when you landing, and then how just walk us through
Yes.
the first day, and any challenges in terms of cultural challenges, linguistic challenges, or what have you. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, prior to heading out to Tokyo, I mean, I've never been to Tokyo. That was my first time. Matter of fact, that was my first time visiting an Asian country, and I try to not have any preconceived notions about the country, I said to myself, I am going to be open to the experience, and I don't want to set these expectations. So when I landed in Tokyo, it was at nighttime. Essentially, it was almost 9 p.m. at night. And I landed at Tokyo airport, and I needed to take a bus to take me an hour and a half to the other airport, because they have two airport locations. Okay. And from that airport, I flew to Osaka International Airport in northern Japan. So when I landed and sort of went through customs and the routine, get my stuff, my first impression was how disciplined and orderly everything was. Very disciplined, very orderly, very organized. I was able to approach people and ask questions, and they directed me. They helped me, figure out the bus that I needed to be on and where to get on it.
Was the language you were communicating with is English?
English, yes.
And
but once outside of the airport, when I was dealing with the bus drivers, and they didn't speak any English.
Yes.
So it was quite challenging to try to explain to them the where I needed to get off. So essentially, we reverted to Google Translate.
Okay.
So I'll say something in English, and it translated in Japanese.
Technology started to
yes.
pick up, right?
Yes. So they'll read what I'm saying, and even though Google Translate is not perfect, they
yes.
got a gist of what I was. They said, "Oh, okay." So Google Translate was sort of what was helpful with the bus drivers, and I was able to get to the second airport, and and the same thing when I went to the food court areas to try to, because it was very late at night.
Yeah.
Same thing. I had to use Google Translate. The menus were not in English. Everything was in Japanese. Yeah. But people were very polite and kind and patient. And I was just my iPhone, Google Translate. I was able to explain what I needed.
So you didn't have any preconception before.
No.
And you kept your expectation as low as
possible.
Normal as possible.
Normal as possible.
Then you went through this experience. Now, so to zoom forward, and the first day you went to to the university?
Yeah, by the time I get to my hotel, it was the beginning of the second day.
Okay.
Because I landed at 9, and by the time I did the bus an hour and a half to, get to the second airport, and from there, be able to catch the second flight to take me to northern Japan, Osaka International, then landed at Osaka International, and from there I had to take another bus to get me to the hotel.
Okay.
And we were talking about it's almost 1 o'clock in the morning. So by the time I checked in to the hotel, it was almost 2 o'clock in the morning.
Okay.
So that first day was essentially to just recover. And the following day, my host, Professor Yoko, came to the hotel, met me for breakfast. We had a conversation, and then she said, let's go to the university for lunch.
What's the last name for Yoko?
Yasuko.
I think was on Bridgewater State.
No,
never visited?
She's never visited.
Okay.
She's never heard of Bridgewater State University, and she's never been to the U.S.
Okay.
So this was her first experience working with a peer American faculty member, and she also didn't know what to expect. So we had breakfast in the hotel, had a conversation about the day, and she said, we're just going to take it easy. I'm going to take you to the campus. You do a campus tour, and that's what we did.
So you did a campus tour?
Yes, so we took the train.
Yeah.
And did a campus tour.
And we have pictures to back up
Yes,
this.
and I have all these pictures of the campus tour. And to my surprise, during the campus tour, she was able to show me a 7-Eleven. store near the spot of the campus. And I was just like, and she said, yeah, 7-Elevens are very popular in Japan. So out of curiosity, I went into the 7-Eleven, and it was interesting because it's slightly different from a 7-Eleven in the U.S. Because the 7-Eleven stores there actually have ready-made food that people buy to eat and drinks. And there are no, they're not open 24/7. So that was an interesting experience. And then there's a Starbucks in the middle of the campus, which was also interesting because I didn't expect that. So we went to the Starbucks and get a cup of coffee.
Welcome to the global world.
Yes, to the global world. And the Starbucks, offerings were the same. It was all the same things you can order here, you can order there. It was in Japanese and in English.
So it felt like culturally it's an extension for what you have here even in Bridgewater or in your town. Okay.
So things were starting to look familiar when I saw the 7-Eleven, and then we went to the Starbucks and get a cup of coffee and talk, and it was packed with students. They love
Did you feel very comfortable with that when you went in the Starbucks or in the store, 7-Eleven? Honestly, as an American,
I was a little bit. I was conflicted.
Conflicted. Why?
Because there was a part of me that the 7-Eleven and the Starbucks, although they look like 7-Eleven, and Starbucks is here at home, in Japan it was slightly different because it's almost as if they re-customize their menus and their offerings to the Japanese culture. So it wasn't fully Japanese, but it wasn't fully American.
Yes.
So they had different kinds of mix of drinks that I've never heard of.
Yeah, the offer is different.
The offering is different, and it was just kind of this blending of the two cultures together. But they were also an interesting example that started to show me the global nature of the world we live in, because I remember sitting at that Starbucks and saying to myself, wow, I never expected to be sitting in this Starbucks. And it just hit me that we live in such a globalized world economically, but also even sitting at the Starbucks, reading the menus and looking at the offering and how they adjusted some of the menus and the offerings and the drinks to the culture. I was just like, so globalization is not just about economic globalization, but cultural globalization is actually very powerful. And I think sometimes it gets overlooked because we focus on the global economic
and the politics of it. Yeah.
But as a social scientist, I was paying attention to the undercurrent global cultural perspectives and global cultural norms that I was seeing before my very own eyes and noticing how powerful it was.
So you transfer from this scene to when you go to the campus.
Yes.
Now you are entirely in different world.
Yes.
Because the campus is Japanese.
Yeah.
Okay, tell us about that.
So the campus is organized similar to the way Bridgewater is organized. Every department has their buildings and library, this typical traditional campus setting, and bookstores and whatnot. The classrooms are organized differently. They don't have lecture style, like people sit in rows and the professor is standing in the front. The classroom that I was in, that I even gave my lecture in, it's a round table. The whole classroom is around, all the way around, and the students sit around. And then the faculty member moves in the middle, back and forth, or sometimes they step outside of the circle in a little bit.
So they are connected with
They are connected with the students all the time, at all times. And interestingly enough, the students wouldn't ask questions in the middle of the lecture unless they were given permission, because this was considered to be to be rude or disrespectful or even unprofessional to interrupt the lecturer.
Okay.
And that caught my attention, and I was talking to Yoko about this, and of course in my lecture with that understanding, I did stop and give students permission to interact with me and ask questions. And interestingly enough, when I asked her, she said, well, one of the things that's very important for her as a faculty member and teaching at the university level and even culturally, they strongly believe that the art of learning, one of the pillars of the art of learning, is in the art of listening. And when students actually can tune in and just listen and take notes and prepare their questions for the end of the lecture, and listening is an important pillar on how people learn.
Okay.
And which is very different from in our own culture, where we believe that learning is an experience and an exchange that should be dynamic, and students should be able to raise hands and ask questions and go back and forth with the faculty. So that was a realization of like, wow.
It's more formal?
More formal, but listening as a pillar of learning is something so important that students don't ask questions, they don't raise their hands, because for them the primary step in learning and understanding the lecture being given is to really listen carefully and take notes.
Okay. Now,
not interact with the faculty.
No interact. So, okay. So this
until
is,
the end,
Okay. So that's one thing. It's not interactive kind of learning environment.
Yeah.
Right.
That is true.
Yeah. Okay. Now, so this is one experience.
Yes.
What else? You.
So after the lecture, we went to lunch, and I met with the faculty. And in fact, the faculty members that I met with, and I've shared pictures with you, we went out to dinner afterwards. We met with the department chair and a bunch of faculty members. There's like three or four other faculty members joined us. And we sat in the faculty lounge and talk about, their work, their research, and their teaching. They were very curious about the role of faculty in the United States. And they were interested in understanding, what we do, how the faculty, particularly, tenured faculty like myself, what are our responsibilities between teaching and research and scholarships and service. Interestingly enough, they put a lot of emphasis on teaching and research.
Okay.
Service is there, but it's not as demanding and as required as we require it here at home. So we exchanged some ideas about that.
Because at home you have some teaching institute.
Yes, and some research institutions.
There's institutions, so that's different.
Yeah.
Now, so you had the opportunity to interact with the faculty
and we talk about curricula.
Okay, so
they share their curricula. One of the things that caught my attention in their curriculum was that, in our curricula in the social sciences, whether you're a psych major or you're an education major or social work major, in your junior and senior year we have internships requirements. And these are pre-professional practicums that allow the student to go in the field and start to learn professional practices and develop professional skills. Interestingly enough, there are no such requirements in their curriculum. The students after graduation, so post-graduation, that's when they do their practicums. As part of their first year of working.
Different model.
Very different model. So they were very interested in how we integrate practicums and field practicum and internship into our undergraduate program. They were interested in really looking at that and asked me a lot of questions and would like for me to share some model and information.
So let me ask you this question.
Yes.
Have you used any public transportation?
Yes.
from point A to B or whatever?
All my travels to and from all the universities, and I visited malls, I visited temples, I traveled across the country in different places. It was all on public transportation. And I was in trains, I took local trains, and on the local trains, I got to interact with people who would just kind of, because I was trying to figure out where my stop would be, and people would help me. Interestingly enough, I had people get off, not their stop, but they get off the stop that I needed, walk me to where I need to wait for the second train to make the connection before returning to catch the
Without
train.
asking them to do that?
I didn't ask them.
You just ask what you know.
Yeah, where do I need to go to get this train, because this is where I'm going, or my final destination is here. They told me to take this train, get off here. And people volunteered. They just said, come. And I said, is this your stop? They said, don't worry about it. And they get off the train. I've had a couple do that with me. They walk me to and show me where to go. So I had a chance really in public
enjoy the public
oh
transportation.
yeah, I mean everywhere. When I travel, I also took the fast bulleted train.
How was that experience?
That is beautiful and fast, quite fast. When I went from Tokyo to Hiroshima, I was on that train. I was on it a few times to just kind of, it's the fastest way to get to see all kinds of different cities and places around the country, because it's fast, it's quick, and it's, or you can take the local, which makes all the local stop. I've taken both and had a chance to talk with people. I've taken regular buses, the city buses.
So as a faculty,
yes,
you know, because in interest of time,
yeah,
put this, or you know, what you describe in a culture statement,
yeah,
intellectual statement,
mm-hmm,
you know, what you get out of it,
yeah,
and how the audience can, you know, probably listen.
yeah,
You're talking about listening, and
yeah,
probably say, okay, now
yeah,
I would like to go and visit Japan, and
yeah,
then
yeah,
experience a new culture.
yeah. I mean, I think the cultural enrichment was definitely something very powerful. And for me, an example that stands out is when I went to Hiroshima, because we have a history with Japan, and you know, with the what happened in Hiroshima.
Yeah.
And I visited the site of what they call the Atomic Bomb and Peace Museum.
Yeah.
And it was a very moving experience, because being there as an American, because they preserved, there was one building left after the bombing that they preserved and turned into a museum. And I was very concerned when I got there,
Yeah.
that as an American, that how would they react to me being here, and my country's history is connected to this museum. To my surprise, the opposite happened. And actually what people said to me is that, don't look at this building as a representation of the war between our countries. We want you to look at this building as a symbol of eternal peace between our nations. That was so powerful.
That's powerful.
And it really was, your heart feels warm, and you just kind of realize that, wow, we can really take something that historically was very painful and turn it into something that is so good and positive. And as a Black American, I reflected back, and I've written this in my journal entry, I reflected back on my own history as a Black American and the history of Black America with America. I said to myself, I am hoping that we've learned this lesson from Japan, that how do we take something very painful in history and turn it into something healing, which is what they did in Japan.
Thank you so much for
You're
this
welcome.
world conversation,
Yes, sure.
Dr. Solomon, and thank you for watching InFocus. I will see you next week.